Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love.
That does. Hey.
Hello. I almost said good morning.
No, well, it's evening.
It's
5:20
evening.
in my world, 7:20 in your world.
Yeah, 7 o'clock. Yep. Yeah.
And it's a Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it is.
Wednesday.
It is
Yeah.
Wednesday. Boy, does time fly.
Doesn't it though? I know. I had a day off. I had to take my car down to get serviced, so it's kind of hard when you have a weekday off to remember what day it is.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked to my mom the other day. I talk to her every day, or at some point every day. And we were chatting, and I said something like, "Yeah, it's Monday," because she said, "Where's Nola?" or something. I'm like, "She's at school," or I'm like, "I'm at work. I'm moving on." And she said, "Well, I don't know what day it is." And I'm like, "Yeah, when you're retired, I guess you don't know what day it is." And she said, "I know. I don't have to worry about it." I'm like, "You're right. Sorry."
Yeah, that's what my mom says. Every day's a Saturday.
Yeah, that's what she says. She's like, I just do what I want. But she loves doctors, so she schedules her world around doctor's appointments.
Oh, yeah. Did you have a doctor's appointment this week?
She did. Today she went to the dentist.
Oh, the dentist. Oh, didn't she just go to the dentist not long ago in like a freaking hurricane?
Oh my gosh. So on our previous podcast listeners, I was recording in the middle of a hurricane or like hours before it. And I'm like, it's supposed to get bad. Ha ha ha. Well, it was horrible. And I'm like, my mom's going to like the dentist or something that she couldn't like miss it. It's incredible. I think yesterday she went to like the neurologist. I don't even know, man. I can't keep up with it. And I probably wasn't even the neurologist. I might even be making that up. But she was somewhere yesterday, today, and then she's so funny because Nola's birthday's coming up and it's next week, actually.
Next week.
And yeah, she'll be 6. And I told her some ideas, and she has to spend only a certain amount of money on each grandchild. Like, not $1 more, not $1 less.
Like, is that to keep things even? Or
keep it even and to keep it equal. So there you go.
Got it.
Look at another red flag around money. Yeah. Right. So anywho, and like, it doesn't matter what the gift is. Like, she has to justify like, hey, I can't buy this for this person or whatever, And so like I told her to get Nola this like golf. So we bought Nola golf clubs and a golf bag for her birthday.
Okay.
Because she's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And she likes it. And it's a fun summer activity, especially here. Like, it's warm and we're so close to courses. I mean, take your pick. In 20 minutes, you can go to 8 different courses.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. She likes to hang out with her dad. I like to ride in a golf cart. It's a win-win. And so, we bought that for her birthday, and that Barbie has a little golf accessory set. And like, so you can have your Barbie dolls play golf too.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, you should totally get her this little set. Well, I thought it was $14, for gosh sakes, folks. And then I told her, oh, you should get her some earrings. She likes her earrings. Well, she'd already bought the earrings and then went to the toy section and was on the phone and was upset because it was $10 more. And she's like, but I'm past my limit. I'm past my limit with each like kid. I didn't spend this much money on this other kid or on this grant.
Yeah.
And it's not a money problem. It's a like fairness. It's about
fairness.
Yeah. I'm like, my God, I'll just give you $10 damn. So I was like, just forget it. I'll pay on it. I'll just buy the toy. It's what the girl wants. I'm sorry. And she's like, it's okay, whatever. And so yeah, anyways, now I got to pay $10 on it. Yeah.
Do you really think that anybody even notices?
No.
Like, who would even, like, I'm just sitting here really logically thinking about all the grandkids. And like, if one of the gifts was $5 more or $5 less or $10 more, would anybody even think about that? I guess I try to always think like the gift should match the person.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And like, as the kids change and, listeners, again, this is just another generational fun association with money in my family that we're identifying here.
Mm-hmm.
I get the purpose and I hear her, but you're right. Like when you remove the money from it, it's not about the money, it's about the quality of the gift. So,
Mm-hmm.
and as kids change and grow, they're going to want different things. And so I have found if I've ever tried to fit that box, because I stopped doing that a long, long time ago, but with the idea kind of pushed on to me,
Mm-hmm.
I found I was buying dumb stuff. Like, I mean, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even relevant. I was just buying things and or spending a ridiculous amount of money on one kid to try to justify the other kid, and it wasn't something that relevant. And what did it didn't even matter, you know? So anywho, that's Joan. I don't know. And it's not important and it's not
Yeah.
relevant. So she don't do that, listeners. If you do that, maybe don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. I tried really hard to break some of that stuff too. Like instead of just buying a gift to buy a gift, I try to really think what does that person like? What do they want? What do they enjoy? And I think matching that is the most important thing than just,
Yeah.
giving them something that doesn't match who they are or what they would use or yeah. But
Yeah.
oh, interesting stuff. Money is a wild
It's
thing.
it is, man. And we could make a whole episode about Joan just by herself. Wonderful, wonderful mother. Lots of quirks. There's a lot of
Yeah.
like familial, ancestral,
Yes.
those
Yeah.
kinds of things. But then there's also cultural and like community environment she grew up in, time period, etc. Like there's just a whole thing.
But
So
your nanny, her mom, is still alive. Does she do
she
those
is.
same things?
She used to not, but now that she's older, I mean,
Uh-huh.
she'll be she's 89, so she'll be
80,
90 and she's at the point though where she really doesn't even want to do a gift. Like that's kind of
yeah.
like hello, I'm old.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Like my life is the gift at this point,
My
you
breath
know.
is a
Yeah,
gift
like
of me
my
breathing.
presence is the present. And so she'll give like she does do limits, but it's cash. It's everybody gets
Yeah.
20 bucks. That's
Yeah.
all it is. And it's only for great grandkids. So like
I see.
all
Yeah.
of the grandchildren are older and I don't matter, anymore. So it's like the littles, the great
Yeah.
grandchildren.
Yeah. Which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and she used to would just buy a dress or buy like something like that, and then she got tired of shipping and stuff, so she's just like $20
Yeah.
done. So like I get what she's doing
Yeah.
versus the other side of it, where it's just like here's $20 cash, you do whatever you want with it. But
Yeah.
everybody gets the same amount at that age.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's my grandma, my husband's grandma. She's done the same thing as she's gotten older. I think, I don't know if the grandkids get it. Yeah. They get a certain dollar amount or whatever. We don't, which is
Mhm.
fine. The kids are what matters. I could care less.
Yeah, I could
So,
care less too, though.
and when they're on a fixed income, they only have so much. So
Exactly. And
when they have 30
I mean,
grandkids,
exactly. So I'm
you know,
like, yeah.
yeah,
She's like, I don't give a shit. Here's 20.
go into whatever that'll
Be
buy you these
grateful.
days.
Yeah, I know, for real. Like, that's what I was laughing about because I don't know. So, anywho, I guess that leads into the episode
Yeah,
worrying
worrying. Yeah,
about crazy shit. So, here we are.
yeah. We were talking about what we should chat about today, and I was just talking to Myra about so many people, not only in my personal life, in my clientele, worry. I was having a session with a client the other day, 12-year-old client, and I could feel when I work with people, I can feel the energy, right? So I kind of already know what's happening, and I'm like, there's a lot of worry here, and what do you worry about? I'm thinking, what in the God does a 12-year-old have to worry about? And I was trying to think back.
I
I
know.
probably worried, I guess, when I was 12. Schoolwork was one thing, things like that. But I was like talking to her, and I wish somebody would have talked to me about this at that age, is, what you focus on expands. So what's so interesting to me about worry is worry focuses your mind and your energy on everything you don't want to happen, right? So, like with her, I was talking about, okay, let's say you're worried about a test. Instead of worrying about you're not going to do well, you're not going to remember what you need to, try to focus your mind on seeing your grade as a B or an A, and thinking, my mind keeps this information easily. I'm going to remember this with ease. How can we start to switch our minds to start to think about the outcomes we want versus going down the rabbit holes we don't?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. When you are constantly thinking about the future, you're putting that out there. So, like exactly what you're saying, what you think it expands. And so you're putting out so much energy into things that haven't even happened, that haven't even been like stated that they're going to happen. You have no idea, these hypotheticals, these thoughts, the mind is so powerful. We've talked about that in so many episodes. And when you're putting out things that you don't want to happen, then you're pushing so much of your energy into those anxious thoughts, and you're impacting your spiritual balance with that too.
Yeah, I remember years ago when I got my Reiki masters and I worked with when I did the course, and the lady who taught me throughout the course, I remember her continuing to talk about mind over matter, she would say. At that point, I don't think I really understood at all what she was meaning. But as I progressed over the years, I really understood what what she was meaning by that. And for me, that's where I started to call it the monkey mind. Right? What are your thoughts? Because I believe that we are a part of the creation of our life. Maybe not fully, because I think, we talked about this in last week's episode. There's karmic energy that has to be balanced. I think that, we come down here to be in our school to learn certain lessons, but we still have free will. So we are creator of our existence. And what we're thinking about, we usually end up creating in some aspect. Thank God there's whatever mechanism that's in place that it doesn't create in an instant. Can you imagine? Boy, we'd off our minds right then, wouldn't we?
I feel like it.
There is grace out there that you don't think
Yeah, oh
about
my
when
gosh.
it's there.
Oh my gosh. Nope.
I do think though sometimes what I've found is the more that you work on your vibration and the higher that you try to keep your vibration, you do create things quicker. So you do have to be more conscious of your mindset, because you do have, when you're at a higher frequency, you can create and match to something a lot quicker than before. So I really try to watch where my mind goes. Not that I'm perfect. I still worry.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. And I'm not perfect either by any means, listeners, but I have noticed too, it's very interesting because I love that mind over matter. And it's so true in so many ways. Like I think about all the things that I've gone through or worked through or challenge, good or bad, because whatever it is in my life, I think about the way I handled myself with my mind. Like, what did I think? What did I do? What actions did I take? And, back in the beginning of the year, and I've talked about it in a couple episodes, I had all these job interviews and I thought things were going one way, then they went the other way. And then I didn't have a job. I didn't. And I really had no idea what was going to come next. And, I took a minute to feel, because I'm human and I needed a minute to work through what the hell was happening. But it was really interesting because at no point did I start losing my mind, which is kind of crazy for me because normally I'm, worry a little bit worried here, a little anxious here, whatnot, and I didn't. And I remember people were like, how are you not worried? How are you not losing your mind? How are you not this or how are you not that? And I'm like, well, here's a couple things. One, a lot of this transition happened over the holidays. So if I'm sitting here going crazy, these are memories for my children. These are moments that I can't take back. So I had to be present in the moment. Everything was fine. I was alive. I was well. I was taken care of. I had what I needed. I had everything that I needed, and we were fine. So I enjoyed Christmas or the holidays, whatever you celebrate. And so after that, then when everything kind of panned out to be like, I truly had no idea what was next. I was like, okay, it was my son's birthday. And I remember the birthday party, and I thought, okay, so I can either be super miserable and freak out this whole time, or I can be in the moment. We had everything that we needed. He had a beautiful birthday party. He was totally celebrated. And I was able to be present in the moment and not freak out. And things did work out. Things have worked out and things will work out. And I truly believe that they would work out. And so it's the mind over the matter. In front of me, to everyone else on the outside, they just saw because I had a massive amount of income exit. I mean, it did.
Mm-hmm.
It really, it said goodbye. I'm like, hello, see ya. And, that did happen. So I knew that money would come. I knew money would flow back in and things would pan out and things would work out and go as they needed to go. But it was choosing to not be constantly in a state of worry and panic when there was so much of the unknown. And I feel like once I let it go and like genuinely surrendered, the rhythm was unmatched. Like I have never had so many interviews or so many people reach out, or it was just insane. I couldn't believe it. But I really tried to flow with life, like finding joy, dancing, singing, playing with my kids, whatever it is that brought me joy. I tried to match that vibration. And I feel like because of that, I was able to bring in these things a lot faster. When beforehand, I was a little more worried and things were really slow, or they just ended, they were dead ends. It wasn't the outcome I desired, or et cetera, et cetera. And I really think though, it all came from, so here's what I've got going on. What am I going to do about it? But once I let it go and truly surrendered into it, that's when my vibration was able to be, I feel, higher. And I was able to really just be alive and be of joy. And I feel like it was able to manifest faster. And then it manifested, it multiplied. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was exceptional. And so that's really what I've seen, especially in that moment and especially in situations where from the outside where people don't understand. And that's the thing too, like I could have allowed their energy to attach. I could have took on their thoughts. I could have took on their worry too.
For sure.
And then that would have impacted the situation even more. But it's all what you think. And, as Blake and I, we're going through a different situation right now, and we're great, we're fine, but we're working through these things. And it's been really cool because Blake's seen how I'm not worried.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not worried, like it's starting to pick up, like, hello, and I think that's also helped make a difference too, is where I'm not putting any of that energy out about the situation. And he's not attaching to that energy too.
Yeah, it's so easy for us to attach to that. If somebody's putting it out, we can grasp onto it. It's funny. I loved what you saying surrendering, right? And really understanding what true surrender is, because I've had a similar situation maybe the last year or so, and I tried to be manipulative about it. Like I really was trying to manipulate it, even when I tried to tell myself I was in full surrender. Mm-hmm. Shit, was not. Okay. No. So I have more body weight than I would like on my tummy, especially my upper tummy. Okay. So like for like the last year, and I just refuse to be a slave to the scale. I don't know what I weigh, but I know how I feel, right? I know how I feel in my body. And I remember like a cord that I took on around this. I had my hormones tested a couple years back, and the nurse practitioner who went through my results with me was telling me like everything was great except for my cortisol levels were extremely high. Right. And she works at the same health and wellness studio I work at. And she's like really high, Tressa. Like, I'm kind of like worried about it. And I didn't even know what the cortisol was. I'm like, what's that? She's like, your stress hormone. I'm like, oh, that. And she's like, I don't even really know what to say to you, because I would normally tell people to meditate and, maybe do energy work and, find balance. She's like, but you do all that. So I don't really know what to say to you and how to help you. But she also said this to me. And this is the cord that I took on more than anything, was, well, you're in your 50s and, sometimes that's just where people hold weight, that upper tummy at that age. And sometimes no matter what you do, it's just there. And, without potential surgery, liposuction, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of took that cord on, right? So for the last year, as I've been not surrendering, I've been negotiating is what I've been doing with spirit. I've been in total negotiation. And it finally hit me a few weeks ago. And I was like, you are totally trying to negotiate that this goes away. But it's tit for tat. I'm reversing what I talk about from my opinion of religion. that, it's through condemnation. It's through, you have to do this to get that. I was reversing that with me being the person putting out the dialogue to God and spirit. Well, if I do this, or if I this, then, my belly fat's going to go down, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, it was awful. So it was funny when you said surrender, because I kind of had the epiphany a few weeks ago, and now I really do feel like I've surrendered, like really surrendered it. And the crazy part is I already feel differently. Like I already feel lighter. Like I feel like it's already reducing. Now, whether it is or not, I don't know, but I feel better. I feel better about it. I feel better when I look in the mirror. I feel better when I'm in my clothes. But I think it's interesting when you talk about surrender and what true surrender is, and really understanding what that means. Because I saw you do it too before that whole thing. You were talking to me about it all the time, and you were in negotiation also. You're telling God how this shit's going to go down.
Oh yeah, I have to be careful. But it's so funny that you say negotiate. But it's so real though, and I feel I'm laughing hysterically because she's not wrong. I know she's not wrong. She's never wrong. But
I can be wrong. But we know I'm right about that one. Yeah, we talked about it.
It's it's one of those things, and like I don't know what it is, but it's like constant negotiation, and it's something that I find myself in, and like if I do this, or if I do that, or if I do this kind of service, the universe will recognize my goodness, like,
yeah,
what the hell?
I know.
What the fuck
yeah, I
is
get
wrong
it.
with
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and it's like when you were talking about it, it made me laugh because I'm like, I tell Nola all the time, I say, this isn't a negotiation. Like, we're not in, a negotiation here. And so I find that so funny, but I think we are always constantly in a negotiation, either with with spirit, with God, source, whoever it is, with your spouse, your friends, whoever. Think about all the time. And honestly, worry is a negotiation. Like, you're constantly spinning up these ideas in your head, and it's all these thoughts, like, oh, well, if I do this, then this person will love me this way. Or if I don't call her back, she's going to be mad at me, so I must call her back. Or if I take her these flowers, then she's going to recognize that I'm a better friend. Or if I hurry up and do this, and this will happen. Think about it. I mean, it's just this natural, constant thing. Like, and I don't, as you're speaking, it's like light bulb moment. Like, we are in constant negotiation. So it's, not lost on me that when we're trying to truly surrender, we're just negotiating. We're constantly trying to figure a way to make our situation happen, and that's still control. That is still a form of control. I mean, it is control, and it's hard. It's hard to truly surrender. And, I've gone through this so much over the last couple years, and because I do believe, and I mean, it's one of my affirmations, but I truly believe, like, I am lucky and everything works out for me. And it's one of those things, like, everything works out for me and everything will work out for me. And then when things aren't working out as fast as I'd like them to work out, then I lose that form of surrender, and I lose all of my insight and knowledge about surrender. And then I just start trying to control or manipulate the situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think, negotiation is a product of worry, is what it is, right? Because you wouldn't be in negotiation with God or spirit or anyone else if you didn't have worry about the situation, if you were truly in surrender. The situation I just shared with you guys, if I was truly in a surrender state, I wouldn't have negotiated every day in prayer for a year, and then I switched up tactics because shit, that wasn't working.
Yeah.
Let me try this one.
Oh
it was
my
great,
God.
but
But
it
it's
was
so true.
good.
I mean,
it was so true.
Yeah. I mean, like,
But,
that's what I was doing, but something different,
Just something different. But it was so great because it gave me a really valuable lesson, of what true surrender felt like. Again, it's like, I keep thinking, how many times do I have to learn that one? Well, apparently a few. Apparently I'm going to be tested a few times with that. But what true surrender looks like, right? And I think we kind of talked about it before with what you were talking about when you made a decision to be fully present with your children. When you're in that fully present state, which I don't think happens very often for very many people, to really be present without your mind going forward or backwards, there is absolutely no worry. There can't be, because there's really never anything to worry about. I mean, and there could potentially be, but that's such a small percentage, like if your life is truly being threatened in the present moment. But that's not usually the case for us, right? And it's when you can live like that, or you have those glimpses, when I felt that energy of presence, it's when I felt the most peace and harmony that I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there too, because I mean, my mind's always going. I feel like it's gotten a lot calmer. I feel like
Mhm.
as I mature spiritually, it's changed a lot. And like Tressa's been in my energy very often. And like I've been in sessions and it's just like, bro, you need to like, whoa, because my mind goes blue, 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 like, like bouncing
Yeah.
around. And I've really evolved and grown. It's calmed more. And I think a lot of it though is it goes back to what we've talked about several times about taking on labels and identities. Because usually if you're ping-ponging everywhere, you're constantly thinking, okay, so I've got a party this Saturday, and then I got to pick up cupcakes on this day, and then I got to do this and I got to do that. So just think about that one little moment there. Okay, well, we're doing that too with everything else. Like, oh, I'm going on a beach trip. What does my body look like? What am I going to look like in this bathing suit? Or will I have the money to go on the beach trip? Or okay, what are we going to buy while we're on the beach trip? Well, how much is gas? Well, how much is the room? Well, what's this or what's that? So people are constantly ping-ponging these ideas, boom, 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 boom. And I feel like, I know this is part of that, construct of time. And like, what does time really mean? And we're looking at all the things we have in our schedule and we have deadlines for, or we have to do this by this or this for that and this and that. And that's where our minds are just constantly everywhere else but in the moment.
Hmm.
Because, I can't, if I'm thinking about a party on Saturday, then what am I doing today? What am I doing right now? Like what am I doing in the moment if I'm worrying about something and who's coming and who's not coming or what they're doing or what they're not, for something that's could be completely different when it happens, who knows? And then if I'm at the party and then I'm worrying about Easter dinner, then I'm not present at the party. So if you think about it from that perspective, it's no different than just being in the moment with everything else going on, because it's just, I kind of think of it like this. I really wish we could all see ourselves from an outside view, I know we can, but like, you know what I mean?
I hear it. No, I get it. I get what
Because
you're saying.
what would if I was my 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old, and mommy's sitting here just like this, worried constantly on my phone, this or that or here, what do I look like? How sad is that? Because we see other people. I can see what other people are doing, and it's easy to compare it to a child and that kind of the innocence of it. Like, well,
Mhm.
what are you thinking? What are you so concerned about that you can't even look at me or you can't be here with me? And so I wish we could all see ourselves from that perspective. Like, what do you look like walking around in constant worry and constant fear? And it goes back to that anxiety and constantly thinking about things that haven't even happened yet or haven't even happened to you,
Mhm.
and you're just sitting there. What do you look like? Are you? I mean, because worrying takes up about so much percentage of somebody's life if you're just in that constant
Yeah.
state.
Yeah, apparently I should probably be dead by now, according to my cortisol levels.
There's all levels.
I don't know. It's really in a lot. I don't know.
I have
Really,
maybe
yeah,
it's
that was interesting. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, because that's the energy you're putting out, right? And that's what people
hmm
feel is that energy of, and that's a lower vibrational energy. So
hmm
your body is a reflection of your internal energy. So your appearance and everything, right? Like if you see somebody who is hunched over, their
hmm
body's kind of in, they're going to be probably more passive. They don't really want people to see them, those kind of things. You see
hmm
somebody who can be a little bit like if you're standing straight up, then you have that more confidence. Or if you're like more back, you could be a little bit more on the aggressive side. Your body's always saying something, but it's more than just, I mean, that's why there's body language experts, but it all comes back to the energy. because the energy is what the body is reacting to, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah. Oh man, you said something else and I was going to write it down. See, I knew I'd forget that I wanted to
I
comment
say a
on.
lot of shit.
I had some shit to say back, Myra, but now I can't remember.
So, I mean, I feel like, and maybe it's just, I feel that we're very intuitively led to what we talk about on each episode. And, you know, in the
Yeah,
last several episodes, we've talked about anxiety, being present, worry, but that's just in the air, you know, and
it is.
but I really feel in my heart, and I feel it coming, that there is a lot, there is a shift, there is positive, that it really is shifting. Like, it is part of a rebirth that we as a society are going through in this moment. You know, it's so fun when we get to do these episodes because, you know, you and I we live in two different parts of the world right now.
Mhm.
Well, the country, I guess, and we're seeing the same things, you know, and even when we were together and now we're apart, we see the same things. We run in different circles. You and I are going through different experiences, but they're similar. They have similar meanings, similar messages, and everyone's going through similar things in this moment, you know, and whether you're worrying about the safety of your family, security of your family, or the political climate or whatever you're worrying about, it's everywhere right now. And I really feel, you know, I feel like there is a shift and this energy is shifting and people are becoming more aware, you know, and they're changing their mindset, they're changing the way they view what's going on. And even people who, you know, I deal with or talk to that's a horrible people that I associate with.
You have to deal with them.
I had to deal with them. Damn. Yeah, they all stopped talking to me now. But when I'm talking to people and I'm interacting with people, I can see a shift in people without even having these types of conversations. I can already see, I can feel the change in the momentum. And so I'm really hopeful, but I also am only allowing myself to see hope in this. Like, that's just where I'm at in this stage. Like, I cannot get so worked up about things I can't control anymore. And that's been my greatest lesson over the last year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And it will probably always continue to be something that I need to learn and refine. But in this moment, it is what it is. And that's just as
Yeah.
casual and cheesy as that sounds. I mean, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing we can do, and if you worry about things that don't exist, then you're already making it happen.
I think there is something we can do. And I think what you can do is keep your energy levels up, keep your vibration up into a higher vibrational state. I don't love to use the term positive or negative because on the vibrational scale of consciousness, there's a neutrality to everything. And then you decide the meaning of it, right? We use the terms positive and negative all the time because that's what we're taught to do as humans, and it's part of our cultural conversations and our collective consciousness. But I think if you can keep your vibration, the higher you can keep your vibration. And what you're saying, you're saying it in just a different way. Like, I'm going to continue hope. I'm going to continue to have faith that things are working
Mhm.
out for my highest good, for the collective's highest good, right? And I think you're right. I think there are cultural shifts happening, and I think they have to happen.
Mhm.
Today it was interesting when I was waiting for my car. They had TV on in the waiting area. I haven't watched daytime TV for so long. Man, they think Young and the Restless was still on. I still knew half the characters. I haven't watched
Oh
that
yeah,
thing in
there's
20
still
years.
my mom does, so I'm pretty up to
Man.
speed.
Anyway, they interrupted damn Price is Right. I was enjoying my Price is Right fix, and with this special report. Okay, I do not watch news, and it was all about the tariff stuff and the stock
Yeah.
market and blah 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 blah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't, people are going to be afraid, but I'm not sure the stock market's going to be the way of the future, right? I don't know if that energy is going to be something that's sustainable if we want real change, because that is an energy of somebody up here suppressing the masses just enough, right? They have just enough. They have control.
Control.
And those energies will shift, and it's not going to be comfortable for people because that's what we believe we know. That's what we're comfortable in. That's the way that we've been taught that things have to be. And I can just feel the energy around that specific topic, and the political as a huge worry for a lot of people. So,
Oh, absolutely. And it's
yeah.
on many, many, many different levels. And and I've shared, I was listening to this book and these like little seminar things around money on the last episode, but that's
Mhm.
exactly something that the gal was talking about is, previously money was backed by gold. And
Mhm.
so there was already a different kind of construct, but that energy exchange is gone. Like that doesn't exist anymore. And so it's rewiring your thinking around that too, because it was such a good little I hadn't really thought about that before. And you're
Mhm.
saying the same thing. Like there's these structures that are going away. They're going away. And that already has gone away. That's bye-bye. That doesn't there is not a dollar for this. There's no one-to-one anymore. And so when you let those constructs go and you accept what it is now, I mean, it is energy. Of course it's energy, but now it's even more energy. Like there's that construct's gone. And so it's cutting those cords, letting those things go to rewire your thinking around those and just getting rid of that. And same thing with the stock market. You're watching people now go through this shift of, okay, this isn't real anymore. Like, and happen, whatever, real or
Yeah.
not real, this just doesn't exist. This isn't going to exist. This isn't the way we're going to move forward with money, with finances, with rates, with whatever. And I mean, but you think about anything that we're doing. Time is a construct that we made up,
Mhm.
that we're so focused and we're so good at telling the time. We've now made schedules and all these things that aren't natural to the flow of life. And you look at it that way too. So there's massive shifts, whether it be the nutrition that we're putting into our bodies,
Mhm.
whether it be the political climate, whether it be stocks, money, finances, tariffs, whatever it is. There are shifts in general, whether it's a person or maybe even a shift with political power. You know what I mean? Like there is
Mhm.
just it's all going in a way, but it has to go in a way for it to become anew. It has to happen. I think about fire. Fire is like just what comes to mind when you have to burn it. And then what comes back, you think about when there's prescribed burns. I'm pretty sure it's what it's called, prescribed burns. When you have them, and they're regulated for the Forest Service to get rid of the dead trees and things I can't say on TikTok, the unalived trees. When those are burned out and cleared, it's meant to help sustain so that there aren't forest fires and that they don't take over populations or take over areas. But what comes back is so beautiful, and it's green and fresh and life, and it's just what needs to happen in the flow of nature. I think that's kind of where we're at as a society. I'm not fearful of it though, and that's the key. It's changing your mindset around it to
Mhm.
surrender, to release the worry, to let it go. And I like what you said. There's things we can do, and that's what you can do. Change your vibration, rewire your thinking around it, because we're going to have to go with this, or I mean, or not, I guess. But
Yeah, some people
there is
won't.
a shift. Yeah. And it's happening around us. And I feel like that's why there's so much more worry, anxiety, those energies circulating around
Yeah, I
even
mean,
more.
that even when you talk about forest fires, that's nature's natural way of cleansing, right? They're
Yeah.
not afraid of it. They know that at a certain point, the fire has to happen to clear out the old debris, and then the new space is so much more luscious, right?
Yeah.
We're just so programmed to hang on to, like we're clawing on to what we do know, right?
Hmm.
It was interesting. I watched this episode of Law and Order last night, and the guy on the episode shot a CEO of a major insurance company, a major health insurance company, right? Shot and
Oh.
killed him. And my husband told me this actually happened. Because a lot of times they'll take stuff out of, and of course I didn't know that,
Yeah.
but it was really interesting because, this kid shot this guy because, the company had denied his mother's health care that she needed. She had breast cancer, yada yada.
Hmm.
But I think that even in our TV programs, there is indications of what's to come, because that's true. We've bought into this healthcare system, this
Hmm.
insurance system that's extremely broken, right? It's
Hmm.
it's fractured and it's
Yeah.
not going to be sustainable. Now, do I think we should go shoot people? Probably not. The karma of that
Not it.
may not be the best way to handle it. However, it is an indication that people in the collective consciousness are saying I'm tired of this. I am going to rise up the way that I know how, right? That's what he felt like he needed to do. And I'm going to rise up against it, right? And it's going to start to bring awareness to it more and more, these types of structures that are just extremely corrupt, you know, and just don't work anymore. They just don't. But it's going to be scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I don't know, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's very
Well,
interesting, and we're
everybody
all
thinks,
just
like
watching,
this is, yeah, we're all watching, but it's so funny because everybody I know talks about you have to have health care. You have to have health care. Even if you're going to retire, you can't retire till you have health care. Think of the conscious programming we have around just that topic. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, why the fuck do you need health care? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question, but it's just so programmed into our energy systems. This is our oneness of our that is just how people think, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
wild.
It is wild. And I mean, I just had a conversation with my niece. She's talking about like her future, and she's wanting to get a car, and she's wanting to do these things as she's getting, a big girl job, whatever you want to call it. And she's talking about her credit score. And that's another one
Mm-hmm.
where, like Blake and I were talking to her, and he's like, it's just crazy that we all agreed that we're okay with this credit score.
Yeah,
You know,
this is how we
like,
this is how we're judged on our
yeah,
value, really,
a number.
financially. Yeah, number.
Yeah. Yes. And we agreed to that. We bought
We
into
sure
that,
did.
And it's the same kind of thing. And I just, you can see shifts happening with everything and rates. And like, I'm looking at this new generation, and I've tried to instill what I can to her, and as she's making these decisions, and be an example of like, hey, this is real life. Like, you just witnessed an ebb and flow in my own life. But look, it did work out. We're okay. Things are moving forward, right? And, I've been trying to say, hey, you do whatever you need to do to get to your path, because she wants to do nursing.
Mhm.
If that's a 4-year institution, amazing. If it's start as a CNA and work up to get your BSN, go for it, whatever that is. But you do what you need to do based on how you feel, not what other people are telling you to do, or what this looks like. And, she's looking at income and housing and all these things. And she's like, how will I ever buy a house, or how will I do this? I said, you will do whatever you are meant to do, and it will work out, and you will make it happen. You can't even look at what's going on now. You're not buying a house tomorrow,
Yeah,
And who knows what's going to happen in 5 years, because I couldn't have predicted this 5 years ago. You couldn't have,
right, right.
and 5 years ago, people were buying houses for nothing. Interest rates were 1%. So who would have known it would have gone low and high back up again? I don't know. It's so I told her, I said, you just need to take care of what you got. You haven't even finished graduating high school. Like, just, you're here in the moment. You'll never be here again. You'll never be a senior in high school again. This is it. You can't go
Hmm.
back. This is the time to just enjoy. You'll probably never see half these people again, whether or not you like them or don't like them, who cares? This is it. Just enjoy the space as it is. You're still 18, you're still taken care of, wrap it up. You're not out on the street hustling. You know what I mean? Like, she's safe. She's safe. We don't need to
Yeah,
be in fight or
and we've
flight
gone
mode.
back to the oldest
Yeah.
occupation there is. Selling your body
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, I'm like, you're okay. Like, let's just relax.
Mhm.
Because I wasn't thinking about buying a house as a senior. Now, was I thinking about my future? Absolutely, because I was asked to think about my future, and I was making decisions that impacted my future in those moments. But I don't remember being so worked up about buying a house or not. But I think about, these are just the conversations and the worry and the fear and the doubts that adults around her are talking about, and then other children are talking about it at school or in her circle, and it's just cascading down, and
Mhm.
as I've been doing work on my own shadow work I mentioned in the last episode, and like looking back, and you asked a wonderful question in the last episode about the generation and how they handled money, etc. And I've really taken time to honor them and thank them and love them for where they are and or what they did, and just really give love and grace to them, because they did what they did because of what they knew. and they knew how to
Sure.
do it.
Yeah,
And,
100%.
and they're learning now and they can heal from that and move forward, right? But that is what it is. But I thought about it too, like, how am I presenting these situations to my child? It doesn't matter what it is, but how am I having those conversations with her? Or am I? I'm not, because I don't think that's part of my trauma, or whatever you want to call it. The contracts that I took on was sitting as a
Mhm.
young child discussing financial situations with adults, which I shouldn't have been, and taking on their contracts and understanding and perceptions of money, right? And so, like, you see my niece is in this situation, and then now when she talks to whoever, it's continuing to pass down. It's like this domino effect, right? And so it's thinking about, like, okay, if I'm constantly worried all the time, then my children are going to be worried all the time, because one, they feel my energy, and two, they hear me say these things. They hear the conversations that I'm having. They're listening, they're around. And so I've really thought about, like, how am I presenting what might be happening here? How am I presenting it here?
Mhm.
And it's really helped me to not internalize so much, and to really think about the energy I'm putting out, even when I am feeling, because I'm human and I feel things all the time, and we have highs and lows and peaks and valleys, and that's
Yeah.
normal. But when I'm in this space, what's radiating out from me to those around me that I'm influencing?
Yeah, I'm glad you're thinking about that, right? Because that goes to change that collective energy. Kind of like what you were
Mhm.
talking about earlier. You found that your Blake has been calmer about it because you've been calmer about it, right?
Mhm.
But it's interesting as you were talking about your niece, I'm like, no wonder we're talking about worry. Good God. This is what we put on children. I mean, she's
Yeah.
18, 17 years old,
Mhm.
but this is what we do as a collective energy, especially in the United States. I do it myself. I found myself trying to make sure I try to change those dialogues with like teenagers or my nieces and nephews. Like, I don't want to ask them, what are you going to do when you grow up? Like, I want to know what they're experiencing now, but we push them, or this is what they're hearing, so then they start thinking about it, and then they start worrying about it like she is, right? And even to the fact of, yeah, where am I going to own a home? I mean, I
Mhm.
don't think I was thinking about that at all at 18, but definitely my future, but maybe not that aspect of it. So
Yeah.
it was interesting. My niece reached out to me the other day. You're talking about like honoring your emotions. You have peaks and valleys. And she said, I've been listening to your podcast and digesting some other content and stuff. And she's like, how do you remain to be positive? Like, how do you manage that? And I was like, well, you don't. Like, you're not
Yeah.
positive all the time, right? I mean, and it was like, I told her, I said, you have to be authentic to where you're at. Because I know people where I've felt that energy of that person who is pretending that everything's okay. They're all bubbly, but deep down inside, you can feel it's not an authentic energy, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, your most important thing is to be honest and to what your emotion is, authentic to
Mhm.
where it is. You're going to have moments of anger. I was thinking about it today, driving back from Salt Lake. So here's where I worry people. I'm a nervous Nelly on the freeway, right? I'm always thinking these damn semis are going to run me over. So Mary knows she's ridden with me. Times she's driven me, which is actually worse. I apologize to every person who's ever had to drive me because I know I'm a pain in the ass. I know I am. But this is my worry, and I'm like, I get road rage. Oh my gosh. I was like getting so pissed at these damn semis today. And I was like saying shit I can't say on the podcast in my car. And Troy's like, Jesus Christ, good thing I don't got a gun in here. You might be shackled soon. I'm like, I know, I've got to get control of this road rage. And
Yeah.
I have made my mind up that all these truck drivers are doing what they're doing, and most of them do. I've just been on the road a
Yeah.
lot, been almost run off, but but I had to honor that was my emotion in the time. I couldn't just pretend to be all positive. Well, that guy is, about ready to run me over. Good job, buddy. Oh, he wasn't. It's in my head, but you got to be authentic and just honor your emotion. But then try to come out of it, right? It's when we stay there, right? I
Exactly.
got pissed. All right, I'm off the freeway to my little town where there's not a lot of traffic. I'm a happy girl, and I'm fine now. So that was
Yeah.
a good question, though. I thought she had.
Agree, because I'm not positive all the time. And but I've really tried to just, and a lot of it's through, affirmations and gratitude and the basics that we talk about almost on every episode too, you know, just really rewiring my thoughts and
Hmm.
changing the
Yeah.
way that I'm my outlook and just being in a calmer state. It goes back to your nervous system too. If my nervous
Yes.
system's calm, then how am I going to react? And I'm thinking about I'm intentional with my words, how I'm saying things. And I have moments like you can call Blake. I'm can be reactive and it's a blast, right? But I also think that something that I try to do is I get over stuff pretty fast. Like
Hmm.
you could say, "Hey, beep beep beep," you know, and I'll be like, "Okay," and then I might be upset for a second, or I'll get through it. Then we'll chat, and then I've already once I like roll around in it for a second, I'm over it. I move on. Like, okay, well, great. Now that we've hashed it out, you know, I can move forward. And I think about it in the same context, you know, feel your emotions, think what you feel, what you need to feel, be upset, worry. If you need to set a timer and take 5 minutes and just cry and be mad or upset or whatever, or stressed, and then say, okay, I've done it. I've honored those emotions. Now I'm going to move forward. So
Hmm.
what does moving forward look like? You know, it's when you stay there and you relish, like you just roll and roll and roll days and days and days and weeks and months. It's when it consumes your life, you know, and I think about, you know, going back to talking about being present, I think about as a youth, it was a younger person,
You.
youth, when I was youthful, I think about how much I wished my life away. And I
Hmm.
wish that I was an adult. I wish that I was done with high school. I wish that I was done with college. I wish that I had a 9 to 5. I wished I had this. I wished I did this. I wish I made this much money and had this stuff. And then I've gotten there and then I wish for more. You know, I honor that. I'm not, you know, I'm not holding shame or guilt for those things. Like that's where I was and that's how I felt. And I, you know, okay. But it's helped me to learn to be like, you know what? Wow, look, thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for allowing me to even get here, you know, or I'm here. Now, how do I sit in this and be here?
Yeah.
You
How
know,
do you
because I
enjoy the here?
enjoy the here because it's always something else. It's
Yeah.
always this, and that. And then now, you know, I'm about to be 30 and I think about like, holy shit, I'm fucking 30. I'm not mad. I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm not in that mindset anymore. It's just a number and I'm grateful for breath and life and to be here. But I'm like, damn, I really wish my 20s away. Like, holy shit, where did that go? You
Hmm.
know, and I think about it even in milestones with my children and like Blake being like, "Oh, I can't wait for them to walk. I can't wait for them to do this and do that and do that."
Hmm.
And I remember being like, "No, let's be in this, be here because it will come and then you don't go back." And so same thing with worry. When you're constantly just, I wish I'm worrying and da 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 da, it's you're moving through these things and you're just speeding up. I mean, you might feel like it's speeding up. It may feel like it's speeding up. It could slow things down, but you're really stealing the present moment, the joy, the gratitude, being grateful and the positivity of the space that you're actually in that moment and feeling it for that moment. And I feel like that's where your vibration stays really low when you're just
Yeah.
constantly, you can't just appreciate, and the universe is like, wow, look at all these blessings and miracles and things I've given you, and you're not recognizing it, then how can you attract more?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. I'm the opposite generationally of being able to like have something happen and let go of it quickly. Like my grandmother on my dad's side, my aunt, I think about that generational line and I have to be very cautious of it and very conscious of it. And I've learned to do it, but it wasn't something I was ever modeled. You know, they are a lot of victim energy. My grandma was very depressive and stayed in bed and just couldn't get past things, you know. So
Yeah.
I have to, that's something for me that I have had to be aware of, made myself aware of, and I do have to watch that. So, like today, when, you know, that happened, I've gotten a lot better. Just like, okay, we're done.
Hmm.
I had my little,
Yeah.
not meltdown, but little
That was
rant.
fun.
I
Yeah.
had a little rant. I'm like, okay, we're good. But I have to be conscious of that, right? And so, like, just people out there, everybody has different things. Like Myra was talking about some of her generational stuff that she has to be more conscious of. I have different ones, but it is the awareness that's going to be key to making shifts in that, right? And two things that have helped me become more present in the moment is training yourself to be present. And one is doing my candle meditation. I do it in the morning and at night, 5 minutes. It's just looking at a candle flame and breathing. That's it. you're not, but it really does slow your mind down. It brings you into a more present moment. And the second thing is making an intention with anything you do, right? Like that I'm going to be present in this moment. If I go to do the dishes, I try to think, okay, I'm going to fill the soap. I'm going to fill the water. I'm going to fill the fork in my hand. I'm going to be present with what I'm doing. The more I've been able to do that in whatever the situation is, the better I've become at just being present in the moment. And since you and I talked a couple weeks ago on the episode about detaching, last night it was interesting. It was like 9:30. I had my phone sitting there. I'd been on it a few times and I was just like, no, go take it in the kitchen. You don't need this. And then when that distraction is gone, I am even more present because I'm not enticed to grab it, right? I'm not drawn to, oh, what did I miss? Oh, I haven't missed shit. I don't need to know that Sue Hulu down the road on Facebook just got whatever flowers or made this amazing meal or snack or whatever I don't know. It's been really good to detach from that too for me, and it's made me become more present. So maybe try those things.
Yeah, and being detached from situations that are outside your purview also helps eliminate the worry, because I feel like a lot of the things that I get worried about are stuff that I would have never even thought of if it wasn't me looking at someone else's life through this lens of technology, or what I've been fed through this lens of technology.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have an awareness about it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So quit watching the news, people.
Yeah.
I worked with a client this last weekend and she's like, I don't think you're going to like this. When I go to bed, I take my phone and I watch 48 hours before I go to bed. And she's like, sometimes it just is playing in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, first thing, I don't take my phone in my room ever. Yeah. Second thing, I'm watching 48 hours. I don't care where you're at. It was cute. Awesome. She was awesome. All right. Well, I think we're done. We talked for a while today. It's a long one.
We did.
Yeah, it was good. All right. Well, what's that? I know we thought it would be short. We really did.
Yeah.
Joke's on us.
Exactly.
Well, until next time, listener land, keep your vibrations way up.
And stay sassy.